welcome back to my channel. This is Dom, and a new sort of occasional series that I'm going to be doing, more for the historical buffs rather than the wargamers. So a little while ago I picked this book up when I was in Shropshire. I go to Shropshire an awful lot, stay in Ludlow, which is a wonderful place if you ever get to go there. And this book I picked up was Castles of the Marches. Now, this is a really geeky book if you're into castles, as I am. This actually lays out a list and a little bit of detail on all the March castles. Now, people might be aware the March region is the border area, basically between Wales and England. It was ruled by the Marcher Lords. They were assigned initially by William Conqueror when he invaded Britain, and he decided that the Welsh were going to be too much trouble to deal with, so he gave huge swathes of the border area to these Marcher Lords who were like little kings in their own rights, had the right to build castles and basically carry out whatever justice they felt necessary in the border regions to keep the dastardly Welsh out. Later on they invaded Wales, and anyway, it's a different story. But this book shows the basics of where all these castles were built, and there's about 120 of them listed in here. Not all of them still exist. Some of them are just little, piles of stone. Some of them not even that. Some of them have been changed from their original castle design into something more grand. But I thought it's a fun project for me and Mrs. Boots to go and visit every single one of them in this book. And actually we found a few more besides who aren't technically Marcher castles, but also damn good castles. So this series will basically be taking me through all these different castles, a little bit of historical background, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please share, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the castles. So the next castle we're going to take a look at is Kinnersley Castle, which is located in the village of Kinnersley in Herefordshire, about 5 miles from the border of Wales. Like all these castles in the Marcher region, it was built in the Norman times to protect the Welsh marches, believed to be built by the Kinnersley family, spelt with a Y and a D, Kinnersley family, which is obviously where the name Kinnersley was adapted from. But one of its original owners was a chap called Richard de la Bear, who married the then heiress of Kinnersley in around 1340. And he is notable for the fact he fought with the Black Prince at the Battle of Crecy in 1346 and was credited with saving the prince's lives, and as a result was awarded knighthood and became the prince's bachelor and constable and keeper of the prince's castle and lordship of Emil. He was later also became the sheriff of Hereford. Sadly, the castle fell into ill repair and was knocked down by Roger Vaughan in around 1586 and converted into a very striking manor house. And that's what it looks like now. And there's very little remains of the old Marcher Castle. Apparently a bit of the moat is pretty much all that remains. And it's a shame. When we were there, it is now a private house. And it does open up from time to time to allow people in to look around. In itself, the house itself is supposed to be, has a huge, is huge architecturally important and has quite a history of its own right. But you just can't see it unless you can get in. So apologies, not an awful lot of pictures for this. So the house has remained in private ownership until around 1954, when it was threatened with demolition, but then bought by the Garrett Adams family and they still own it now, and it is very much a private family home. When we were there, you could see somebody putting out the washing, which is a bit bizarre. But as I say, it does open up from time to time to the public, and it seemed to be seems to be a very impressive building in its own right, which features some amazing 1588 gilded plasterwork ceilings and some roof tiles from from Elizabethan times. It's in about 8 acres of grounds. Would have had a lot more in time gone by, but over the years, most of the gardens have been sold off to what remains. What's also very interesting about Kinnersley is actually the parish church, which sort of bats straight onto the castle. It's a really interesting church, very different and quite striking inside. So we'll have a look at some of the pictures from inside there. It's got an amazing ceiling in there, which looks very dated. It looks very old. So most notable inside the church is a memorial to Francis Smallman, who was Lord of the Manor at Kinnersley and died in 1633. He was an interesting character. He served as an MP under James I and Charles I. And so there's a very striking mausoleum, I guess you call it, memorial, which was erected by his son William, which shows the couple and family in very much in period clothing, and is quite interesting to look at. So fascinating little church, and well worth the visit as well if you come to take a look at the castle.